Preserving farmland, reducing our dependence on driving, and improving the livability of our communities. What do these three things have to do with each other? Everything.
Projections are that the population of the Rogue Valley is going to double within the next 50 years. The cities in the county here are making a plan to figure out where all of those people are going to live and work and go to school and how we're going to get them from place to place. The plan they've come up with is called the Regional Problem Solving Plan, or RPS. The current plan calls for expanding the cities by about 8,500 acres. About 7,000 of those acres is currently zoned for farm use. A good chunk of that, over 1,000 acres, is some of the best farmland we have left in the valley.
The RPS plan predicts double the number of people and double or more the number of cars over the next 50 years, and advocates for the expansion of urban boundaries as the primary tool to accommodate this growth. Rogue advocates and Thousand Friends of Oregon feel this long-term plan should place more emphasis on redevelopment and reinvestment in existing urban areas, reducing dependency on the automobile, and making a more concerted effort to preserve existing farmland. And we'd like to share some of the reasons why.
I think it's hard to overstate the importance of conserving prime farmland. And there's a lot of farmland in our valley, but not a lot of prime farmland that has good, reasonable access to irrigation water. Prime irrigated farmland is going to be one of our most precious resources and kind of a bottleneck down the road as imported food becomes more and more expensive. We have to grow more food locally. We have to.
In order to make a living in farming, it's important to have a good land base. And one of the largest threats here to the land base in the Rogue Valley is urban growth and urban growth pressure. Some of the best farmland on in the north end of the valley and the Central Point side has been urbanized. And these Class 1 and 2 soils are the most profitable soils to produce on. And once we lose them, we'll never have them back. The county's RPS, or Regional Problem Solving Process, it came as a way to get the cities in Jackson County to work together to preserve agricultural land. And it kind of morphed away from that and more as what urban growth should look like around each of the cities for the next 50 years. And this wasn't the original goal of this plan. It was to preserve agriculture.
While the plan only establishes what lands are available for future development and the minimum density of development, the danger it presents is that by putting so much farmland on the chopping block, it greatly increases the likelihood that the best farmland will get developed first to accommodate more sprawl. The ultimate form of development in the region will be determined by many factors, but the plan's bias for sprawl and cars over farming, public transit, and livability helps perpetuate poor planning practices of the past. While the decisions made in the RPS plan are likely to stand, we'd like to see the implementation of tools and policies that encourage investment in our existing urban areas and increase livability by promoting walking, biking, and public transit, and looking for ways to invest in affordable housing choices near where we work, shop, and play.
We'd like to see them get a little bit more creative about new types of urban design, new types of communities where people actually have choices of where they're going to live and how they're going to get around. And when you build cities in that way, you actually can use less farmland, so it's a win-win situation.
There has been some movement toward more responsible land use planning and design in the Rogue Valley, but there's a lot of room for improvement and a lot of potential.
And we're sitting in the middle of the Twin Creeks transit-oriented development. And Twin Creeks was conceived about, I'd say 10 years ago as part of a larger regional planning process. We were looking at where in the valley we could create mixed-use developments that would support transit, public transportation, the use of rail potentially in the future, and would also create more of a community environment and a sense of place. But the idea of a mixed-use development integrates land uses where in the past we've tried to separate commercial, industrial, residential land from one another. We can now reintegrate some of our land uses. We can put residences above commercial first floor developments. A more conventional development might facilitate 4 to 6 units per acre. That would be single family detached homes. When this property was first envisioned for development, it was planned for a traditional single-family subdivision, which would have accommodated, in the 200 acres, would have accommodated about 500 units. Because we brought in apartments, row houses, townhouses, flats that would be above commercial buildings, we'd probably be pushing 11 or 12 units per acre.
Twin Creeks is a step in the right direction, but encouraging redevelopment in and around our town centers, not on our farmland, should be the first priority. Investing in our urban cores is a wiser and more cost-effective investment in our future, as it is a much more efficient use of public infrastructure funds. Rogue Advocates and Thousand Friends of Oregon have been working together to encourage our local leaders to accommodate growth without using up good farmland that will become increasingly important for food security and a strong local economy.
Ideally, we would like to see more development occurring within the urban cores, the city centers that we currently have. We already have service in these areas.
When we choose to contain population growth within existing boundaries, we not only preserve our limited farmland and valuable open space, but we increase opportunities for public transit and reduce infrastructure and ongoing maintenance costs. The more people that live and work in an urban area, the more cost-effective it is for public transit agencies to service those areas. This leads to less driving, which in turn leads to less pollution and more time doing the things we love. This is another reason we've been encouraging our local leaders to commit to higher density levels and more infill and redevelopment within our urban areas.
Transportation infrastructure and transit and roads are just like pretty much any other public infrastructure investment, like sewer lines or water lines. You have to build it, and then you have to maintain it and provide the administration for operating it continually. And the longer your lines get out of the city, the more expensive it is for that organization to maintain their system. So having urban areas look at more compact development, it helps the water district, it helps the electrical company, it helps us.
Now we're talking about potentially in the RPS expanding that road system considerably, and you're not going to find anybody who can tell you who's going to pay for that. Who's going to pay for construction and ongoing maintenance. We can't afford it anymore. We can't afford the expansiveness in our transportation system. And we have to recognize that in the way we plan for growth.
We've just pushed people outside, out of downtown, and out to places like Eagle Point, where everybody's got to get in a car and drive to work. I'd love to see downtown Medford revitalized. I think no one wants to live down there right now if you look at it, and I think the best thing that we could do is completely redevelop downtown Medford with smart development, 4 and 5 store or higher buildings, build up instead of out, where we had a community in downtown Medford where people wanted to live and they could bike to their place of work, where they wanted to shop.
Efficiently built, compact cities have the added benefit of improving the livability of our communities. Cities that focus on creating vibrant downtown areas where people both live and work and amenities are close by tend to be more desirable places to live and have more dynamic local economies. When we have options to bike or walk or take transit, which are more widespread in compact urban areas, we tend to be happier and healthier.
Having compact urban development really maximizes all of your different public assets the most efficiently possible. You need less space for most things, but it also provides more space for people. It's pedestrian scaled. And it also usually has a character that you can't find anywhere else. You feel like you're part of a place. It's placemaking. And you don't really see that in conventional suburban cookie cutter type of developments. You're usually attracted as a tourist to go to places like this. Why not bring it home?
This type of development is happening in the Rogue Valley, but it's still a rarity.
I think you're finding in the last few years that there's been more willingness to try something different, and as people, real estate agents, banking institutions, city governments experience the positive outcome of this, you'll probably see more of it.
It seems to me that we have quite a bit of agreement about what makes a place livable. We want places that are quiet and clean and safe and have some green space accessible, some places that aren't paved that are pleasant to spend time in, and where there's a sense of neighborhood. It's not new, it's old stuff. And everyone I know wants those kinds of qualities and less dependence on the automobile for where they live. Mixed use and pedestrian transportation blends are the rule in some of the cities and urban areas that people rank as the best and most livable in the world. I can't imagine an acceptable quality of life 20 or 30 or 40 years from now if we don't move towards those strategies and get people living, shopping, and working in pretty much the same place a lot more than is the case right now. These are the big decisions that are going to have, I think, a level of impact on our quality of life and our kids 10, 15, 30, 50 years from now that's really hard to exaggerate.
Rogue advocates would like to see a Rogue Valley where important farmland is conserved for future generations, where people in our region have other convenient options besides the car to travel from place to place, and where our urban areas are more livable. In other words, they are designed well, providing a sense of community and place. This is what our group envisions, but we need your help in creating a community-led vision for how the Rogue Valley will grow. Please join us as we work together to create this future.